Welcome to the MMA Happy Hour. I am Kyle Anthony, your host. We're here. We have interviews, MMA banter, and betting advice. This week, UFC 292, a stacked card between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. We're going to talk three plays here like we always do on the show. And listen, I know, no show last week. I was actually on vacation. I posted that on Twitter. I was going to probably have some shuffling around going on, also trying to get this episode out. I was able to land on Tuesday late, got some stuff done on Wednesday, was able to get this podcast out to you guys on Thursday. Client plays are up right now. I've got 5 client plays up right now. 3 are at plus money, a 5% max play also for this card. So I'm really excited about it, kind of seeing what's going on. And for those of you that did follow me on Twitter, posted up some great stuff, some great sights and sounds of Saratoga Springs in Florida. Had a great time. Really enjoyed myself there. Had a lot of Casamigo. I will say that as well, too. So without kind of diving into everything else, I do want to first say I want to thank our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy Sports. If you want to be a part of that app and get involved with what they do over there, I really love it. They are the official sponsor of the MMA Happy Hour. Check the link below. That will get you a 100% deposit match on your first $100. And as you guys see, if you see, I keep cashing these Underdog tickets. I post them always on Twitter. Hit for $450 on the last one that I just did. Hit for what was it, $750 2 ago. So listen, and I'm giving those out for free. So check me out at Kyle Anthony UFC if you want to check out some of those. But listen, I think it's time we get involved with the main event of the evening between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. Now, this one here, we've got the GOAT, right? We've got the bantamweight GOAT in Aljamain Sterling. Has looked fantastic. The champ overall looks fantastic. And on the other side here, you've got the hype train. You've got the fan favorite, the wiry striker in Sean O'Malley. So a lot of times I think that people kind of look at this fight when they're first looking at it and kind of think it's more of a grappler versus striker kind of matchup where, hey, it's going to be Aljo diving at legs and, he's not going to want to stand with O'Malley. To me, I don't think it's fully just that. I don't think it's really just it's going to be these takedowns. Aljamain's just going to dive at legs. I don't really see that. Plus, Aljamain offers up a lot more than just a grappling credentials. The guy has consistently improved his striking, and I have been really impressed with what he's been able to do. He's explosive. He's been able to kind of put together some of these takedowns behind some of these strikes. And again, he's got these jumping moves, and he doesn't mind if someone's looking to take him down. He's okay with it, although, it doesn't really happen too much. But this is a spot where there is a vulnerability there. There is that vulnerability for these takedowns and for all of that. And even the path for it and how Aljo will move in the cage helps him. And just how he'll move. First of all, he's going to want to smother the kicker. He's going to want to move forward. He's going to want to pressure O'Malley. He's not going to want to stand at kickboxing range, working at range, thinking that's going to be a great idea for him where he's, could be picked apart. Now, maybe not picked apart, but that's his best path. That's O'Malley's best path to victory, absolutely. But if he smothers the kicker, Aljo moves forward. It does two things. It really makes it tougher for O'Malley to fire off those kicks off of his back foot, but also the fact that it provides a landscape for Aljamain Sterling to get takedowns, to shoot for takedowns. And that, to me, starts to open up a lot of great opportunities here, for Aljamain to find success. Now, he has a 24% takedown success rate. Not very high. Well, let me make sure my camera's. There we go. Not very high, but it's, I think, a lot to more do with the fact that he chain wrestles. He will go in there. He'll shoot for one. If he doesn't get it, he'll try to latch onto it. If he missed the first, the second, the third, he'll keep looking for it until he kind of pushes you up against the fence, or he does get that takedown. And now that, to me, could skew some of the numbers. But Aljo, if we saw what he did against Cejudo wrestling, he was out there out wrestling the wrestler, and, it's, very close fight, all these things. I had Aljamain. He did get the job done that night, but, it looked impressive. That was against Henry Cejudo. This is now against Sean O'Malley. That's a little bit different for me. When you're looking at the credentials of somebody who can defend some of these takedowns, I think you'll have that opportunity to level change and keep pushing forward. Plus, I think that the other part of this is just the threat. It's just the pure threat of takedowns that that O'Malley's going to have to deal with. And now he has never had to deal with that in his career. He's never had to deal with a guy who has the credentials of Aljamain, that not only he can strike, but he can get those takedowns. And that is going to provide a very tough landscape for him to just comfortably move forward, comfortably throw these big shots and have all of that. Now, on the other side of it, the win condition for O'Malley really comes off of a knockout. And I don't really think O'Malley can win a decision. Now, there could be some slimy decisions, but I think that this is a spot where Aljo's going to win positionally. Aljo's going to have the opportunity to get these takedowns. He's going to win the control time. I think, the big moments, maybe a big shot or two could come from O'Malley, but I don't really think that is a winnable, kind of formula over a 5-round fight. I don't really think he's going to have that. And Aljo also is not a guy that gets knocked out. He's 23-3 in his professional career. He's only been knocked out one time. That was back in 2017 against Marlon Moraes. And if you look at that fight, I mean, a crazy knee, he gets blasted and gets clean knocked out. Nothing you could do there. That was a shot nobody was going to be willing to take or be able to take. Prior to that, he lost 2 split decision fights, which I believe he won both of those. So Aljamain could possibly be 25-1, and the one only being some kind of fluky-ish knee. That's pretty crazy to me if you look at the body of work that Aljamain has been able to present over his time in the UFC. And the competition level on Sean O'Malley's side, in a very, very low level. I mean, obviously, you're looking at, Pedro Munoz and Peter Yan. You did see those fights, and if you look at those fights, Peter Yan, I had O'Malley winning that fight. I had Peter Yan winning that fight. I thought he had gotten it, and then you look on the other side here, even against Pedro Munoz. Pedro was chopping at those legs, and I think arguably or probably winning the fight up until the eye poke. So this starts to kind of really pull you to where things are. And now the other part of this, now I talked about this on Wagertalk today when I was doing their live show today. And the thing about, and this may come as a hot take, I don't know, but I really believe that Sean O'Malley's power is slightly overstated. Now, I believe he's got great striking. He's a slick striker. Guy has ability. Sharp. All these things. I'm not denying any of that. But the power part of it, I think, is a little overstated. Now, if you kind of just look back at his knockouts, let's just kind of run through them here. Now, he knocked out Jose Quinones. Now, Jose Quinones was also knocked out by Luis Smolka. That's not the greatest look. Smolka's no big power puncher, right? But he was able to get the same knockout on Quinones. After that, O'Malley knocked out Eddie Wineland. Eddie Wineland in his next fight was knocked out by Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann doesn't knock out anybody. He has 14 fights in the UFC. His only knockout victory was against Eddie Wineland. Then you look at his next fight for Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley knocked out Chris Moutinho, and which, hey, looks great. Although Moutinho took a lot of his shots, got battered and bruised for over the period of time, but he was able to go out there and knock out Chris in that fight. The next fight, Chris Moutinho was knocked out by Guido Canetti, and Guido Canetti also doesn't knock out anybody. He has 10 fights in the UFC and only has 1 knockout win. So again, not a guy that knocks out anybody, but he's able to knock out these same guys that O'Malley is. And these guys are obviously lower level, so O'Malley's going to be sharper, better than all these guys. And then even Pavia, he's another guy who chinny's been rocked, wobbled, all those things. Then he fights Pedro Munoz, doesn't get that same kind of knockout feel. Then he fights Peter Yan. Don't really see the knockout power there either because these guys aren't as chinny. And that, to me, shows you where Aljo is that Aljo's going to take shots. He's not an easy guy to get knocked out. He has the wrestling. He has the credentials. And then lastly, I think on this part of it is the reach. O'Malley is so used to the reach advantage and having the ability to go out there and utilize the striking, utilize his footwork, not worry about takedowns, and have that reach advantage. That's a recipe for success for any high-level striker. And you look at the last 4 fights for Sean O'Malley, you've got over the last 4 fights, his reach advantage was 5 inches, 7 inches, 3 inches and 4 inches of reach advantage over his opponents. On Saturday, Aljo's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. To me, a lot of this stuff, to me, it just looks like Aljamain Sterling is going to have a lot of success in this fight. You know, outside some fluky thing, I think Aljamain goes out there and dominates. I think he moves forward. I think he protects himself. He fights smart. He smothers and puts O'Malley in bad position. So I do like Aljamain Sterling to get the job done, but I'm taking Aljamain Sterling to win inside the distance, plus 125. I think he goes out there, dominates, runs, you know, early. I think there's going to be some opportunity where you're going to see, you know, O'Malley landing and the crowd going crazy because he landed on Aljo. But I think Aljo's going to find the beat, find the rhythm, get in there, get the takedown. And I think he's going to have a choice between a submission or just ground and pounding him to death. So I do like Aljamain Sterling to get the job done, plus 125 inside the distance. Now, the other one we're going to talk about is going to be Ian Garry versus Neil Magny. Now, you got Ian Garry, big favorite here, minus 500 on the comeback here. You've got Neil Magny. He's plus 360. Now, you've got the hype train, another hype train here in Ian Garry. Guy, undefeated fighter, 12-0, has looked fantastic, sharp striking. On the other side, you've got Neil Magny. Veteran, you know, veteran of the sport here, cardio guy, looking to smother, looking to do all those things. Now, we were supposed to see Jeff Neal versus Ian Garry. That was going to be the fight. We thought that was what we were going to be getting. And if you follow me on Twitter, you do know that I'm looking for a spot to fade Ian Garry. I am, and I am. I'm looking for it. I'm not saying it's because I think Ian Garry's bad or he, you know, he's just a hype train. He has no skill. I just think there's a point. He's going to hit a level of a fighter and at a price at which is way overinflated, and it's just going to be no value on taking him, and there's going to be value big time on a guy that's in the top 10 or whatever it may be once he gets to that point. I thought Neil Magny, is not the guy, but I really did think that Jeff Neal possibly was the guy to go out there, throw a big shot, and maybe make it a little more competitive than that line indicated. Now we've got Neil Magny coming in, short notice, and listen, this is the Dana White special here, because basically Garry was asking for a Neil Magny fight. Wasn't able to get it. However it was, I guess it was maybe because he had that fight not long ago, but whatever it was, he gets Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal backs out, and then he actually gets the guy that he wanted in the first place and was calling out, which was Neil Magny, which is kind of crazy how that worked out for Ian Garry. But with that being said, you look at kind of, what he can do, right? You look at kind of the situation of, is he a tough fighter? Are there holes in the game of Garry? What he's going to do, all those things. But to me, the biggest stuff really is going to be what's going on Neil Magny. And you look at Neil Magny, the short notice, the fact that this is a week's notice, that Neil Magny is coming into this fight, taking on this fight, that's kind of crazy overall. But also the fact that, as I had just said, 2 months ago, Neil Magny fought. So yes, he didn't it wasn't some brutal fight. It wasn't of that. He did go out there and beat Phil Rowe, but that's 2 weight cuts in 2 months. That's a lot. That's tough for anybody. I think that Neil's always in shape. He's a skinny guy. But again, that to me really doesn't do anything well for Neil Magny. Also, you look at this, UFC did him no favors either. Normally, where it's this short of time, they'll do a catch weight, or they'll try to figure out a way to kind of just not make it fair, but just, hey, you're coming at short notice. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and you're going to make weight because we want to have this fight. They're saying, no, Neil, come in. We're going to write you a check, make weight, and you're going to fight, Ian Garry in a week's notice. To me, it's going to be a very weak version of Neil Magny. I don't think that he's going to offer up too much. Is he going to really have the ability to go out there and just cardio everybody to death or any of those things? Maybe. But again, it's going to be a weaker version of him. And then you also look at the fact that Father Time's catching up to our guy over here, Neil Magny, right? The guy's 36 years old. And just hasn't looked that good. Excuse me. Just hasn't looked that good. Has looked slow. Not as sharp on the feet. I think he's not absorbing punches very well. Some of those things are just not really working out for him. And yes, he's gotten a victory. I mean, Phil Rowe, but yes, he's getting some victories, losing some, winning some, finding good stylistic matchups for him. But I think in this spot here, not only are these things where it's a short notice and all those other things, it's the fact that there's 2 different ways that I think that are really going to be allowing Gary to just kind of do what he wants to do. And the first part is the fact that Neil Magny has terrible striking defense. And a lot of times he utilizes his 80-inch reach kind of as his defense, poking out the jab, utilizing that at such a long range where the fighter can't get inside on him. And then if they do kind of look to get inside, that's where he looks for the takedowns. He looks for those opportunities. To me here, Gary is way too sharp on the feet. I think he's got fantastic footwork, fantastic movement. All of those things really work out well for him. And that to me, and just how technical Gary is, I think he's going to be touching him up all night. And then you also look at the other side of it that, Neil Magny does not check leg kicks well. He just doesn't. And that's also going to allow the high-level kickboxer in Gary to land some big shots, start hammering on the legs, hammering on the body. He's got a great body kick. We know he's got a good head kick. He can really mix it up and really start to pick Neil Magny apart. And then you also look at another layer of this. Now, a lot of this stuff, again, is baked into the price. I'm not telling you things you don't know. I don't assume here at a minus 500 number, but it's going to be speed. It's going to be the speed advantage that Gary's going to have. He's going to be way quicker, way sharper, way more technical, better striking. I think we're going to get, a weaker version of Neil Magny. Now, on the takedown side of things, could he take him down? Could that be a thing where he's going to take him down? I don't really think so. 41% success rate for Neil Magny. I don't think that he's going to be able to get his hands on Gary, control him in any of those things here. So, and lastly, the other thing too is this is an 11-year age gap. 11 years. I mean, boy, does that always favor the younger fighter big time here. So I like Ian Gary in this spot here. I think that he's going to go out there, get the job done. But of course, I'm not going to be giving you guys a minus 500 pick here. So I think we're gonna turn that minus 500 into a plus 115. I think this is a great spot where Ian Gary can go out there, light him up, and I think Ian Gary gets that knockout. Plus 115, a great number here. I think he's going to be going for it. He's not going to want to be wrestling around with Neil Magny by any means. I just don't think there's a reason for Gary to do that. I think he stands and bangs. I think that knockout comes in that first or second round. So I'm taking Ian Gary via knockout plus 115. And the last one here, I'm just going to very, very quickly go over, is going to be Gregory Rodriguez versus Dennis Tululin, whatever it is. But we have the line here, minus 375. On the comeback, you've got Dennis is plus 280. Now, my quick synopsis of this is really going to be the fact that, Gregory Rodriguez, guy is a big bomber. He likes to brawl, and he has just fallen in love with his striking, completely fallen in love with his striking, where his last 6 wins, 5 of them by knockout, but it has costed him in certain spots where, he's willing to bang, he's willing to strike, he's willing to throw, he's willing to do all these things. And that's great that he has that, but you wouldn't realize that this guy is a world champion jiu-jitsu guy here. You just wouldn't recognize his accolades because he just doesn't do it. He likes to strike. He's got that power. His boxing has been good. His striking defense can be a little wishy-washy there. And again, it's got him into trouble because he's not mixing it up. He's going out there. He wants to bang. He wants to have those spectacular knockouts. And it's cost him in certain spots. Even certain spots, it's almost costed him. Where he looked like he was going to get the finish, or he was going to get finished and then came back and got the finish because they were on the feet striking. So this is a spot here where I really think that yes, Dennis Tululin, has some striking ability. He's got some decent boxing, some of those things, he's 1-2 in the UFC. But if you look even at that, Dennis, his only 2 losses in the UFC, both of his losses in the UFC, both come from submission losses. And one of them I thought was just completely eye-opening, which was his fight against Jun Young Park. I mean, Jun Young Park took him down and just washed him and just went there, took him down, subbed him, fight over in round 1. And we've seen over Dennis's career that he's got 7 losses, 4 of them come by submission. The path is there for Gregory Rodriguez if he wants it. Now that's what comes down to it. If he wants it, he may want to just stand up and throw big haymakers, but if he wants it, the takedown and the path of least resistance is absolutely there for him. He can get these takedowns. I think once he takes him down, I honestly think it could be one. It could be one takedown, and I think he's just going to run right through him, almost like what Park did. And I put Gregor Rodriguez as a better jiu-jitsu player on the ground than Park. So I think this is a great spot again where we're getting off the big number. That's what we're looking to do here. You know, I love plus money. We talk about it all the time. If you want to follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC, I talk about all the time. I'm the plus money hunter out here, man. I'm looking for value. I'm looking for plus money. I'm not looking to just, let's take two big favorites together, or let's just, let's look for even money all the time, or let's just look for slight favor. And I'm looking for value wherever the fuck it is. It could be some of these big favorites. It could be some of these big underdogs. Wherever it is, it makes sense. But we're also trying to turn some of these big favorites into plus money, or at least making it more valuable for you instead of putting up a minus 400 guy here. So you're looking at here, Gregor Rodriguez. I think the submission is a great play. If you're looking at it, this is plus 200. It's plus 200 for Gregor Rodriguez via submission. I think it's a great way that he's going to go out there. The path is there. The opportunity is there. His skill set is there. The vulnerability for Dennis is there. At plus 200, it's an easy play for me here. So I'm taking Gregor Rodriguez via submission plus 200. So there you have it for UFC 292 MMA Happy Hour show. Now let's get it, man. I'm excited about it. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Again, at Wagertalk, I've got 5 plays up right now, a max play. Also, I do have, of those 5 plays, 3 of them are nice plus money. So I'm excited about it. I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get after it. And let's get it done this weekend. Let's cash.